welcome everyone. That music did have sort of a reason that we'll get to in just a little bit if you can figure it out. The clue is the singer Tommy James and the Shondells. Where are they from? That's the clue. All right, well, everyone, it's officially springtime, and even though it definitely doesn't feel like it yet because I was outside a little bit ago in a full winter coat. This was NeoSTEM's first year in partnership with the Cleveland Cavaliers, and we entered the partnership with relatively modest goals. If you remember thinking back to when we started this is going to be like a couple of hour, 400 or 500 people, 20, maybe 30 exhibitors and partners. That was the plan. That was the bar that the Cavs helped us set. That was the bar that they not only helped us set, that was the bar that they said was going to make this one of the best events that they ever did. If they could get 500 people, 20 or 30 exhibitors, they said that, if you don't make it, we're okay, because that's a really high bar. That is not what happened. We wanted to bring first was 500, then 1,000 people to the field house for this event. We wanted to put on a good event, and we wanted people to have fun. And after months of planning, working with so many NeoSTEM members and the NeoSTEM family, to say the event was a success is a massive, massive understatement. And if you were there, listen, there were little bugs, little hiccups here and there, but I would argue that the hiccups that we had are all things that are on our list that we want to shore up for next year, especially the parking and all of those things. But none of them were things that meant, police or ambulances or shutting down or massively punting or things failing. Things went really, really well. And the things that we saw that did go wrong, our attendees didn't see. We've been asking and they didn't see it. All they saw was this really, really great opportunity to come into the city, to participate with an event with all of these really, really incredible vendors and nonprofits and museums and partners. And they had that. So we had 1,500 students, families, and organizations, more than triple what we originally talked about, from all around Northeast Ohio to the field house. We had programmable robots from our friends at Rockwell Automation and First Robotics. We had birds of prey from our friends at the Cleveland Museum of Natural History. We had an examination of wearable technology used to help people with spinal cord injuries from our friends at Parker Hannafin. Too many to name, but we can't also forget the after event and pregame party that rocked with our 7-year-old DJ Lily. My kids are mildly obsessed with her now because of the time that they spent over there. So I'd like, if you don't mind, there's a handful of people here who were exhibitors. I am positive that I'm going to forget some of you. So if you want to help me out by hitting that reactions button and giving the thumbs up or the raise hand, if you were a participant in this, I would really appreciate it. While you're thinking about doing that, I see in my upper right, Matt Debelek. I know that the aquarium was there, and that's always a lot of fun. Katie Adkins was there and helping. We had just so many people, incredible experience, prizes, experiences all along. Verizon was there with their partners at Jumpstart. Jessica just put in the chat. Really, really very exciting. When the dust settled, when it was all over, we saw 1,500 students and families come to an event that featured more than 40 individual interactive exhibits. And the Cavs told us, you might be shocked to hear this. I was. This was the biggest non-sports, concert, whatever, the biggest youth event that they've ever had in that arena. So while we were excited and we thought it went well, they were frankly blown away, which, you know how it is. When you're on the inside, sometimes it's really easy to forget how good the work that you're doing is. And I think that's the case for a lot of you. You did really, really incredible work to make all of this happen. And don't forget it. Make sure you're listening to that message from the Cavs and knowing that you really made a difference. And we're only going to continue to make differences like this and this event to keep it growing and expanding. So Ebony, over the past 2 weeks, you've gotten a lot of feedback from attendees, from exhibitors, from the NeoSTEM partners about the event. Can you talk to us a little bit about what people are saying?
Yeah, Jeremy, for sure. I would love for any of our partners to speak up about their own experiences, but I can tell you that people were floored. I don't know if it was COVID fatigue, that kind of just got people out and caring about doing these type of events again. But the feedback from our partners that were there, so this is just, strictly our exhibitors that were there sharing with everyone. they were like just in heaven with the number of guests that they were receiving, folks that just hung out at tables, and the level of just the intensity of people to care about STEM. And I know one of the things that was shared with us was this idea of connecting STEM with sports and how cool that was. Like how they'll like add literacy to everything, literacy and, running a marathon, that kind of stuff. So the idea of like attaching STEM to like the Cleveland Cavaliers and the actual sport, that was also feedback where it was like, this was so cool to kind of attract attention in that way that you never really think of. I know my time as a kid, it was always like the bobblehead attraction or, what free giveaway. But here we were talking about careers and how you can learn, different things, science, technology, engineering, math. Like, how cool is that? So that was some of the feedback that was given to me from our partners, was that to be able to engage with one may consider like a nerdy kind of topic, we knocked it out the box. And I think the other outpour that we have is that people want to do it again. Like everyone's already planning, even with all the hiccups, people are like, well, what about next year? Like, let's start talking about this thing for next year, and how much longer can we make the event? What type of ways can we engage folks? So I'm just excited. I'm super duper excited to have that much energy surrounding it. And again, I will open up the floor if folks do want to share, like any of our exhibitors that were there. If you all want to give feedback, and I'll be more than happy to share too about the participant side of the house. You mentioned your kids being like in love with DJ Lily J with her like kids bop kind of theme music and all that. Folks were like, the participants were like, oh, did you see the faces? And I could just go on and on about this event, but I literally saw like our teenage volunteers running around, and they would come back with their haul from all this stuff that they got from different exhibitors and what they've learned. And they were just sharing these stories. Like, what teenager, is just engaged to just go all in for an event? Like, they're volunteering, but yet they were learning and excited about it. So again, we killed it. That's all. We just killed it, Jeremy. We killed it.
While we're waiting to see if there's anybody who wants to mention anything else, and we would love to hear that. And we want to hear your positives to make sure that those are things that are continued and expanded. And we want to hear your negatives. I'll tell you, probably many of you have the same two negatives that are already on our radar. Number one is parking and the issues with especially the lot right across the street, which we know about, and it's on our radar to fix for next year. And the other is load in, load out, particularly load out when it was a situation where all of a sudden everything had to be out like immediately. So we've talked about shifting things a little bit to accommodate that. But if you have things beyond that, we definitely want to hear. While you're thinking about that, and just hit that raise hand button or put something in the chat if there's something you'd like to share. I want to share that the Raspberry Pi folks, and the reason I mentioned them is because perhaps unique to this group, I'm not positive, Raspberry Pi folks do similar exhibits and events all over, have done hundreds and hundreds, and they've done them all over the world. So they've got this really broad scope, and they were over the moon with how things went, the opportunities that it was able to bring. They were particularly excited because when they do a STEM event, it is overwhelmingly a CS or a STEM event because they're little computers. And therefore, it is the same kids. Not that those kids don't deserve those experiences. They do. But it's the STEMmy CS kids who come. Because of this partnership, we had all sorts of kids who have never engaged with anything STEM or CS before. They were brought in by basketball and by the Cavs. And then we got to show them the power and the experiences behind STEM. And that, I think, is what's, to me, maybe the most exciting thing is, again, we want to do the events for the STEMmy kids. That's really important. But also important is finding ways to reach kids who don't yet know that they love STEM and love STEM experiences. So it doesn't look like anybody's putting their hand up or putting things in chat. But if you've got anything that you would like to share, if you want to share it privately, that's okay too. Just shoot an email to Ebony or John, and then we can kind of go from there. So Ebony, now that Score with STEM is behind us, and I say that with the knowledge that in like 4 months, it's time to start planning again. But setting that aside for a second, the 2022 STEM event is, oh, you know what? I'm going to stop because I want to hear what Donna has to say. Pause that. Donna.
Okay, no, I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm not going to speak because I would speak for an hour about what happened. But I think with the programming that we are going to do during the summer and the spring with the different sites, that we will expose more students to STEM. And when we do this next year, we will double the number of attendees and their parents. I talked to some parents during the day about what are your thoughts around, your students and STEMs. And they were like, well, we really don't know much about it. If you had something for the parents to learn about it, that might be helpful. So I did want to share
Great
that.
piece.
But I got pages of stuff that we'll talk about in a meeting because it was just so positive. And my Parker team, they are just so on board with helping. They want to be a part of the teacher externship program now. They've passed it on to other divisions and locations to see where we could place people. So once you have that, we'll have that conversation scheduled shortly, and count us in for this year.
Love it. Donna, love it. The only thing I didn't love that you said, and John sort of put this in the chat as well, is doubling makes me want to throw up a tiny bit.
No.
Just a little bit, just a little
There's
tiny
so much opportunity to use that space. And
yeah, you're right. You're
located. Right. So with a little tweaking, and one of the things I had on my list is maybe we start maybe an hour earlier so we can end an hour earlier, because as people were packing out, they were already broadcasting. Mm-hmm. So maybe if we had that additional hour separation by maybe starting at noon instead of 1, it would help us get cleared, because certain sections were blocked off and people had to go around.
I think the biggest puzzle to me of this whole thing, and I'm not sure if John, Lauren, Ebony agree, but it has to do with what you're talking about. The biggest puzzle to me is that in between time. Mm-hmm. DJ Lily was awesome, and it would have been terrible without her, but it was still 2 hours of listening to her play music and eating some kind of mediocre pizza. So we have to figure that out on its own, how to make that part more exciting. I think you're right, Donna, that we've got to load out a little earlier, but we also have to keep in mind every half hour earlier that we load out is a half hour more time that people are going to have to kill in between. So keep your brains rolling about that. If you've got great ideas, email them or note them down, because when we start to plan this again, everyone, I think that's going to be a really critical component. All right. Well, thank you all for the comments you've made. Again, please make sure to keep those comments going. You can put them in the chat. You can email Ebony, Lauren, John, or any way you want to get it to us, but get it to us, because we are keeping track of all those positives, all those negatives. All right. So Ebony, now that it is behind us, until we start planning for next year as an ecosystem, what do we have to look forward in the spring and the summer? It feels like we went off this giant cliff, and now I don't even know what's next week, let alone this spring and summer.
So, that's always a great segue to talk about what's to come. And I see 2 of my favorite people from CMSD on the call. And one of the things I was going to talk about was another similar-ish type event, and that's Rock Your World with STEAM. So you all want to pitch it? Like, Kirsten, you want to talk a little bit about that? Because it's a cool event, and I want folks to know what's happening in the biggest school system here locally related to STEM education.
Hi, everybody. So Rock Your World with STEAM is a CMSD event that showcases our CMSD students. And I believe this is the 23rd year that this will be held, and it will be the first time we'll be in person in 2 years. So we're really excited about that. Originally, it was an arts only festival. And about 10, 12 years ago, it segued into being Rock Your World with STEAM. So right now, our footprint is that we will be in tents outside of the Rock Hall and the Great Lakes Science Center. And everybody who attends will have free admission to both museums. but it's really just a celebration of what our kids are doing all year long. So there'll be performances, there'll be artwork on display. I'm already working with a couple of robotics teams. There's one group that's going to do art robots. So they're going to have robots that can create art. So I'm really excited about that piece. We expect about 3,000 attendees, although that's been our norm. But if we've got the COVID burnout and based on the success of Score with STEM, I'm thinking we may see more. So, really, if you're interested in potentially having a interactive table, you know, if you're working with CMSD students and you want to highlight the CMSD students in your programs, please get in contact with me. I'll put my email address in the chat, and there's just there is a form, a registration process that we're going through, and I'll be happy to share that with you and kind of the rubric so that you understand what we're looking for. But it's really meant to be student-centered and engaging for the attendees. So thanks for letting me pitch.
For sure. Thank you so much. I know I can tell you I personally have attended this event before, and it is truly amazing. Like it's just a really, really good event. And I'm so glad to see, like I said, two of my favorite folks over at CMSD, like behind it, because it goes from amazing to also like quality and rigor and all those things we love to talk about in the academic space. And one of the other things I want to share, I don't think Mark could be here today, but you know, he's generally on our calls from the Soapbox Derby, and he has an amazing, amazing opportunity for all the folks that attended, like our participants that attended the Score with STEM event. He's going to extend an offer for like any of those students who want to go to their World Championship this July. He'll pay for those folks to come down. So I'm like, oh my gosh. So if you were a part of this event and you brought in students that want to have something to do over the summer, Mark is going to pick up the tab to help make that happen. So one of the things I can tell you about the Soapbox Derby, at least the one here in Cleveland locally, you all can see it from the shoreline, you know, so you kind of pass it, you kind of peep over and kind of see it in action. This is the World Championship. I've never attended. Show of hands, who's attended like one of these Soapbox Derby races before? Anyone? Yeah, I'm not seeing any hands being raised. So I am just excited because I never knew the people behind it. I always thought it was like this exclusive, you know, kind of like a country club vibe. I'm like, who goes to these things? You know, who's there? And he's basically like, Ebony, we're going to have 400 like kids from all over the world competing. And that's going to be in July. So we have shared information about the summer camp that he has, and we're definitely going to share the link for folks to exhibit. So again, another opportunity. So our partners that are, you know, further south, all the way up to here in Cleveland at the lake, this is a chance to get involved and to get your names out there and to recruit your future workforce. That's the best way that I can describe it. Show up for these events, have these hands-on exhibits, get a following, and recruit your future workforce. So we will definitely share all of those ways of becoming connected. I think John may have dropped it in a chat for you to learn more about that. Another thing that's going to be happening that I am super duper excited about was the fact that we are about to launch neighborhood programming. So it's one thing to like have this one and done event. It's another thing to say, how can we pour this type of activities like into the community? So from our calls with MyCom, you know, we're pitching around these ideas, and one of our biggest ideas that we have with excited partners at the table is this idea of like STEM on wheels. So this whole biking kind of idea has been changed to a STEM idea where you're going to talk about like the psychology of how is it that folks are getting hit? Let's talk about visibility. Let's talk about mechanics and engineering and physics, all those different things. Plus, you get a bike and ride safe. You know, so we have like amazing ideas, coding opportunities, and we are looking again for partners that are willing to say, you know what, I think I could come and do, you know, a week's worth of programming, or come back and do, you know, every Thursday evening at 6 with a bunch of folks. So please, please, please make sure you are in touch so we can expand what's going to be like our neighborhood programming for the summer and beyond. So that's what I'm looking forward to happening with NeoSTEM. And feels like I'm just, Jeremy, I don't have the vocal cords for like, how do you keep it up? Like, how do you, how do you make it happen? It just feels like
Eben, if you ask my wife and children, it's that I just never shut up all day long, and therefore.
And so you're just good at it. So one of the other things that you need to know about is we are partnering with the Cleveland International Film Fest. So I know that there were 0 hands for Soapbox Derby, but how many hands did we have for the International Film Fest? Okay, all right, there we go. All, 3 people. So out of all 3 people, if you have not experienced the Cleveland International Film Fest, for years, it was held at our very own Tower City, and it has moved to the Playhouse, which I haven't had a chance to attend it yet this year, but we're partnering for a film called Zero Gravity, a community partner. And what that usually means is that we get to meet the filmmakers, we get to promote discount tickets to support the movies, because having something like this in our community is a plus. So to be able to have a huge film fest here in Cleveland is amazing. To be able to have films that we love and care about is also a plus. So we definitely want to make sure that you all are in link with that. We are going to be doing an interview with the filmmakers with the Great Lakes Science Center. So you all can definitely be a part of it. And we do have time as well to show the trailer for the movie too. I think that could be cool if you all want to just take a moment to see that. It's a short little clip. All right, cool.
Do it. Yep.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let me make sure I get this right.
No worries.
Hold on.
I want to go to space.
You want to go to space?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. This is the first time I'm hearing you say that.
Your mission is to program satellites inside the International Space Station.
And liftoff.
That is the space race right now.
And it's going to take every single one of you to make sure that our code is one of the best in the nation.
Robotics teams have been working in a worldwide challenge, using coding skills to see who can do it best.
The Spheres experiment that's about to take place on the space station.
¿De qué se trató el programa? En inglés es Spheres, que es un GPS porque lo quieren poner en Marte cuando vayan.
You can dream whatever you want, and if you can work together very well, you'll fly straight to the moon.
We're gonna win this space race, okay?
My goal is to become a marine biologist one day. The water is just like zero gravity, close as you can get.
If you even reach space, you'll be like, oh, we're the champions and stuff.
Esa es la palabra NASA. ¿Di NASA?
NASA.
Se llama Steve Smith, es un astronauta.
The early years are the crucial years for them to get exposure to different opportunities and to find out where their passion is.
This is a robotics competition. Which of your team's code will it be?
Seeing something that's in space that we're programming on Earth, that's like kind of crazy for me.
Let this be the start of a journey, a lifelong journey of learning.
Whenever people say the sky is the limit, I just think that they're wrong. There's much more ahead of them.
T-minus 10 seconds.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good luck to all of the contestants, and let the games begin.
That was so freaking cool. And I don't know if you all noticed, but did you see Jeremy in space? Jeremy, we are putting you in space so you can do like this MC kind of thing. And you can kind of like steer us in our NeoSTEM meetings here on Earth. I think that setting would be amazing. So now
I mean,
I'm
listen,
gonna have
Ebony,
to
if
see it.
NeoSTEM wants to raise the $750,000 to put me on a Blue Origin flight, I'm in. I'm in.
You're
I don't
in?
think that's the priority, but yes, I would go to space.
Okay. All right. I want to see
love
it
it.
happen. Yeah, love it. So how can we, sorry, you all, how can we duplicate that back at home? So again, here's filmmakers. They have these, kids doing this race, to build their robots and different things to have for this competition. We need to put Cleveland, Akron on the map and do this at home. Who's game? Like, again, it doesn't have to be space. Yes, I see a hand. Is this a hand for an idea? Or are you saying, yes, let's make it happen?
No, I just happened to get an email from NASA today that they're doing their microgravity contest again. It is expensive to participate because even if you win, you have to, as a group, come up with, I think it might have gone up now, $25,000 to put your experiment into space. But it's a cool program. If anybody's interested, I've got a game plan. I just need the funding.
Do you know where my mind goes, Ebony? Because that'd be great if we can find $25,000 in kids and all those things. But also, we have this huge, partially unexplored body of water attached to our city. And there are some really great underwater drone kits out there that could be kind of interesting too, and maybe partner with the whatever that's called, the Great Lakes Water Alliance, whatever. I'm drawing a blank on what it's called. But we could go the opposite way. We could go down instead of up, and explore this resource that we have.
I'm game. I love it. And our Great Lakes region, we can just put the Great Lakes region on the map. And then we can explore it, like you said. We'll take it below water, and maybe it won't come with a $25,000 price tag, to make it happen. So thanks a lot, NASA, for equity and evening the playing field for us to participate. Much appreciated.
All right. Well, I think it's a great idea. And these are the types of things that that we want you all sort of to be noticing and thinking about as we move forward. The goal of any ecosystem, and I know that not all of you have a lot of experience with ecosystems, but the goal really is, in my mind, kind of three-pronged. Ecosystems should be amplifying the work that all of you are already doing. That's prong number one. Prong number two is that we've got these kind of not small, but smaller initiatives like WIR'ED that John's going to talk about here in a minute. And then we also always need to have on our radar 2 or 3 big, audacious goals or events. The Cavs event is one. Something like the satellite event is one, because those are the types of things that we can use to bring everyone together and to really specifically address the equity needs and the job and career pipeline needs that we want to focus on here in the city. So, John, I mentioned WIR'ED. Can you talk to us a little bit about next phase of WIR'ED?
I can talk to you all day about WIR'ED. So everybody, or most people here, have heard me talk at various points about the WIR'ED program in the past. Really, really briefly, it's a program that started up in 2020 in the middle of the pandemic. And the idea was to pair tech-savvy, digital native high school students with mom and pop brick and mortar businesses to have these students work to improve the online presence, the digital footprint of those business owners, so that they could begin to operate at the time, and to a certain extent still, in that more distanced world where everybody was operating online and nobody was doing anything in person. We had 4 cohorts of WIR'ED over the last 2 years. They've gone really well. We've learned a lot of things and had a lot of great experiences. But this summer, the WIR'ED program is getting zapped with gamma rays and turning into the Hulk, due in large part to our ongoing and amazing partnership with CMSD and with YOU. So this summer, in partnership with both of those organizations, WIR'ED is expanding to 2 simultaneous cohorts of up to 20 students apiece. Now, keep in mind that in the past, the most that we've had has been about 15 students. So we're roughly tripling that. We're very excited about it. And also in partnership with the Urban League, We are talking with them and working to partner with them to bring some of the WIR'ED programming that we've got into their summer programming as well. So that's just an update as to what's going on. We're really excited about it. The ask that I've got for everyone, normally we're trying to recruit students. This is not an issue for us this time around. We are, however, recruiting businesses to participate. We'll be sharing out links and information in our upcoming mailings this week for everybody, for you to pass along. But if anybody knows a small business owner, a small organization, it doesn't have to be business owner specifically. We've had, regular for-profit businesses, we've had nonprofits, we've had churches. So really it's any local organization that would like to improve what they're doing online. Please come to us or pass our information along to them so that we can get them to participate. It's a great experience for the businesses. They get free work out of it. And it really is invaluable for the students and the work that they do as well in learning. So that's what we've got going on with WIR'ED, Jeremy.
Thank you, John. So thank you, John. Thank you, Ebony. We're doing lots of great things here at NeoSTEM. But the next question before we move on to a couple of special guests that we have is how do we keep these ideas flowing, and how do we keep the partnerships and the growth occurring in Cleveland? And I'll tell you that for me, a big part of it is in the networks and building the networks. And playing a little Smokey Robinson right now because there's a reason. It's my favorite Smokey Robinson song. The reason is that the broad international ecosystem initiative, which some of you know about, STEMecosystems.org is the website. And Cleveland, NeoSTEM, is a part of this big coalition of around 100 ecosystems around the world. Something like 88 or so in the United States and the remainder in countries around the world. And these ecosystems look dramatically different by design. Some ecosystems are statewide. Southern California, there's 3 different ecosystems all in Southern California. There's shops like NeoSTEM where there's, a handful of half-time people running everything. And there's shops like Pittsburgh where they've got 20 full-time employees working and everything in between. And that's by design. Part of the genesis of this big ecosystem project was that some central organization shouldn't be telling regions what they need. Instead, we should be giving them the tools to design what makes sense for their region. But the exciting thing to me is that once a year, members of all of those ecosystems convene somewhere. And it's a location that moves all around the country. And we're kind of lucky from an expense standpoint this year that it's about 3.5 hours away in Bay City, Michigan, is this summer's convening. I don't remember the date, but John or Lauren can put that in the chat. Now, the reason I'm mentioning all of this is that every ecosystem convening, there's always the lead, Ebony will be there, but the goal always, when possible, is to try to find 3, 4, 5 different people who are members of the ecosystem who could attend, because it's an opportunity for ecosystems to see what other ecosystems are doing, talk to them, gain ideas, gain clarity, and then go off into another room somewhere and plan and develop for their own region. What we're lucky for in this region is that Ebony and Alyssa have committed to covering the registration fee for up to, I don't remember the number, I think it's up to 4 additional people on top of Ebony. Ebony's saying 3 or 4 people. Now, that does not include travel expenses and hotel expenses. Again, it's relatively cheap travel for us this time because we're driving there. And the hotels aren't like crazy expensive hotels either, because it's a small town and all of that. So what we're hoping is, and most of you probably can't just say this right now, what we're hoping is that for some of you, that kind of piques your interest and it's something that you might be interested in doing. If that's the case, please reach out to Ebony. She can give you a hand with some information on how the registration covering will work. If we have 7 people who are interested, we'll kind of have to figure that out. If we don't, we don't. And then talk to the folks at your organization and see if they might, for this experience, be willing to send you. You're going to spend 3 days working with people in similar roles to you, nonprofits, museums, funders and foundations, K-12 people, higher ed people, business and industry people. All of these people are here at this event. The sessions are very practical and practical focused on how to combine efforts, how to reach different populations, all of those types of things. The keynotes are interesting, and it's filled with field trips to schools and museums, with there's an adult playground time period with drones and things that you're going to be able to build and touch and equipment and all of those types of things. It's really a great experience. And then I always argue with any of these conferences, the most important thing, the sessions are great. They're really important. And if Alyssa is here hiding somewhere, she'll yell at me for saying this, but they're not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you end up being able to build this really, really deep group of contacts of folks who are doing similar work to you, that you can then reach out to partner, to ask questions. So in the backs of your minds, please keep that in mind. Reach out to Ebony if that seems interesting to you. We would really love to try to figure out a way to bring a whole Cleveland team to this convening in June. So thank you for considering. All right. But now we have our special guests. We have so much to learn from one another, and we always do when we're on these calls together, but we're also always looking for voices, for thought leaders who aren't already a part of this group. And that's what we have today. We're really excited to introduce the winners from the Cleveland Leadership Center's Accelerate contest. Accelerate's a pitch competition that gives individuals across Greater Cleveland the chance to win seed money to help launch their ideas to make the region a better place. And we have, I think, both with us today, Shane Winnick and Courtney Smith. They're the grand prize winners for their pitch, Greater Cleveland, spelled Grayter Cleveland. Shane and Courtney, how are you doing today?
We're doing really well. Thank you so much. Could I share my screen and can everybody hear me?
I think Courtney is sharing her screen. Oh, no, it is you, Shane. Yeah, we see you and we've got you.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We're really, really glad to be here today. It really is a privilege. And I'd like to introduce my friend Courtney, who is here today. Say hi, Court.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
We like to start by just saying thank you. Those are my two favorite words in the English language. We say them all the time, and yet not enough. But it really is a privilege to be here, to be introduced. Courtney and I have spent the better part of the past 2 decades becoming great friends. We started by working together for the Office of Child Support for Cuyahoga County back in 2007. That's when we first met on the same team at Child Support. Just to lay the landscape of what technology looked like then, that was the year that the first iPhone came out, and now we can't imagine our lives without them. Amazon was not the behemoth it is today. Facebook didn't have the reach that it did today, and Google was a lot smaller and didn't own YouTube yet. But 2007 was also the year that Courtney decided that he wanted to leave his career in public service for a career in technology, because he saw that that's the way that the economy was going. So he went and he got a book about C#, said he didn't know what C# is. I still don't know what C# is. And he decided to teach himself to code. And he supplemented that with some courses at Lorraine Community College that was on top of the master's degree that he already held. And that marked the end of his career in human services, and he went to work for a local tech company called Highland Software. A short time after that, somebody from Highland Software just changed my life by reaching out to me, having seen some writing I had done online, some videos I had posted, and offered me a job to come be what's called a product evangelist at Highland Software. So our career started together at Cuyahoga County Human Services Child Support. We since moved on to Highland Software. We since have moved on to other careers in the tech space. So fast forward to late last year, where I got an email to my email address that was announcing the 8th annual event that I had attended probably 5 years before with Highland. And it's called the Accelerate Citizens Make Change competition, sponsored by the Cleveland Leadership Center. For those maybe not familiar with Cleveland Leadership Center, check them out online. It's a place where citizens get to put forth themselves and their ideas to make the community a better place to live and to learn. So that's when I reached out to my friend Courtney and I said, hey, you know, we have a rather unique experience together. We started working together. We became friends. We're different. Courtney's black, I'm white. Courtney has a college degree, I don't. Courtney's technical, I'm not. And yet we built this great life and great friendship together through those shared experiences. So the idea of Greater Cleveland in kind of a humorous nutshell is, stop me if you heard this one before. A black guy and a white guy walk into a school. More formally speaking, these were our judges for our presentation. And what Greater Cleveland Initiative is all about is about delivering tech TED Talks to teens with a twist, and the twist being that they're delivered together by two people that are different. And in particular, somebody who's black and somebody who's white. Because what we want to show kids is, we want to show kids in the Cleveland school system to improve the representation of black and brown kids in the technology space. So we want to show them somebody who looks like them that has been successful in this field. And we also want to show them someone who doesn't look like them that's working with that person, to show them the great many benefits that you can get from getting to know, work with, and become friends with people from different experiences. So we were awarded the grand prize at the Cleveland Leadership Center's Accelerate Pitch competition. And our initiative, what we're going to be talking about is basically three different pillars that are important to this. And first and foremost, before I talk about that briefly, what's already been mentioned here on this phone call today, we are not interested in sort of coming in and starting something brand new, but rather plugging into the great work that's already taking place for relationships that people already have, and seeing how we can help those organizations out. But first and foremost, we want to, it'll start out with Courtney and I, but over time, build a roster of diverse pairs of people that are willing to get together from their shared experience and to speak to young people about their tech careers. Over time, as we build that roster of people, we would look for it to include women and people of different races, not just black and white. Secondly, we're going to look for employers to be interested in contributing diverse pairs of members of their workforces, not just to introduce the kids of our community to those places of employment, but to introduce those places of employment to the kids of our community. Eric Gordon was one of our judges at the night of the presentation, and he told us that he is graduating kids with advanced placement computer science coursework, but the enormous challenge, how he put it, is getting them access to companies that are run by white men. We want companies to understand what the benefits are of really creating pathways and opportunities for young people in technology. And then certainly lastly, getting schools to invite us in. It was an honor to get to meet Ebony and Andrea Vulo with the PACE program that we're going to look to take up some of those open volunteer opportunities there. And really, I just think that this is symbolic. On the night that we won, I posted a brief video to LinkedIn, and I talked about how we need to make hate strange again. A lot of white people have a difficult time talking about race, even folks that are really well-intentioned in our community. They'll use the term underrepresented. They'll use the term rising tide lifts all boats, but they won't use the term black. 64% of the Cleveland school students that Eric Gordon's responsible for educating, the 38,000 of them, are black. We want to see greater representation of those students being interested to getting into the types of careers, and to understand that it's not just about coding. It could be about sales or support or services or strategy, legal, finance, or accounting or marketing. There's career path for anyone who wants one in the tech field. So we're calling it Greater Cleveland. We look forward to learning more about all of the great initiatives that you all have in store and that you have going on. Our email address is down there. We have a brief video. I will go ahead and share that link along with this community of folks, but we want to go into classrooms. We want to get in front of kids. We want to talk to them because our own careers were unlikely in this space. And as Courtney mentioned during our presentation, it's all about introducing students to something maybe that they hadn't imagined before, and the future that they might build for themselves could be unimaginable. We look forward to working with you all. We welcome any questions you have, and feel free to reach out to us, introduce yourselves, what it is you're working on, and if we can help, feel free to invite us along, because chances are we're going to be interested in saying yes.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us. I'm sure you're busy right now after everything that's kind of happened rather quickly for you. Could you talk just real quickly about what your next steps are? You touched on this a little bit, but what are your kind of specific next steps, particularly those that the ecosystem could help with?
Sure, great question. Number one, first and foremost, we're looking to volunteer for some of what the PACE program has going on, so we can actually get into classrooms to speak to students. And there's programming where a couple folks come in from different industries like manufacturing, technology, talk to students. Then the students have the ability to kind of go explore on their own and then return and have conversation about what it is that they learn and be able to ask any questions. We love what's being spoken about here to get with places of employment to kind of explain. I loved what was said earlier by Donna about talking not only to kids, but talking to parents. That's something I hadn't even thought of. And wouldn't it be great if we can kind of educate parents on what it means to encourage and get people into the tech field? And then we've had a couple of our colleagues from Highland Software is where we worked, that are already involved in speaking to students through TechCore and through HIT and the CLE and other organizations that are reaching out to us. And we just want to literally dive in with people that already have that apparatus and that infrastructure in place. A lot of these are 1 and 2 man and woman shows that are just bootstrapping and working hard. And we just want to contribute and volunteer where we can. So if you have something that you feel that we might be good for, might be able to help with, do feel free to reach out to us. And as I see in the chat, this is just about the closer we are together, the less, we hate one another. The less we hate one another, the more we'll listen to one another. The more we listen to one another, the more we'll understand each other. And then we'll find things to love each other more about, and the better our world will be. So we look forward to working with you all. It's a privilege to be here, to get to learn, because we're new to this. So any advice, guidance, or resources that anyone can share with us, feel free to pass along. We will do the same.
Well, Shane, I'm going to give you the one piece of self-serving advice, which is this is a group that loves to partner, to collaborate, and to find new outlets for their work. And the best way to make that happen is for Shane, Courtney, either or both of you to start coming to these meetings. We're only about an hour once a month, and we're always looking for new voices to join us as we kind of develop these things. So we would love to continue this conversation and have you be a part of our work moving forward. For everyone else listening, absolutely reach out to Shane and Courtney if you see a fit there, and let us know how that's going, and we will kind of go from there. I do want to mention in the chat, because it transitions us, that Ellie from the Fed mentioned that she had to jump off, but that April is Financial Literacy Month, and they've got some really good events and resources. There's a link there in the chat that you can get, and it'll be on the follow-up email from NeoSTEM. But that brings me to the final part of our meeting every month, where we are going to break just for about 5 or 6 minutes into some smaller groups, because we found that when it's a big group, people don't talk in Zoom. So we're going to break into some smaller groups, and all we want you to do today is say hi if there's new people, meet there, and then share what's going on and coming up in the next month or so from your organization. We'll bring you back for just a couple of minutes to close out, and we will be ending right on time. So John is sending those rooms out now, and we will see you all back here in about 5 minutes. Welcome back, everyone. Just a couple of quick announcements before we close out. Number one is don't forget what we mentioned before. If you're interested in attending the convening and you'd like some financial help, please let Ebony know. If you're interested in attending the convening and you don't need financial help because your company wants to pay for it, that's even better because more people can go. But anybody should and can come. That's number one. Number two, John's going to put in the chat a link. On Thursday night, we're doing a quick little trivia contest for the STEM ecosystems as kind of a lead up to this event. I have no idea how many people there. It might be 3, it might be 100. Now, one of the prizes for going is early bird registration rates for that event, which if you're going for free, you don't need. But also there are a couple of really cool prizes that are being offered as well. The two main ones that I think are worth mentioning is Boxcar Derby is the number one winner of the trivia contest is going to get a Boxcar Derby car. And those are $1,200 or so kits that you can give to your community or to your groups. And an organization called Pitsco that's a sponsor of the event. If you go to the event, the second place winner, they and their entire ecosystem will be taken out to dinner at a nice dinner at the event. So if you've got the time, John's putting that link in the chat. Please go ahead and register and join us. The final thing that I do want to mention before we close, you may have noticed John and Ebony have sent out, and Lauren have sent out a couple of notifications via MailChimp. That's a change. They've always come directly from Alyssa's personal email account in the past. I just want to mention it so that you know it's not spam, and that's where the communication is going to come from now on. So if you haven't gotten one of those already, it's probably in your spam. So go ahead and whitelist it. Reach out if you need help with that. Or you're not on the list, I suppose, in Shane and Courtney's case. We just need to get them added. And we will see you at our next meeting, which is next month on May 3rd. We'll have lots and lots to share when we get together again. And we are hoping that real soon, maybe this summer, we're going to start with in-person meetings again. Again, we will still have virtual options for those of you that are far or concerned about sickness. But for those of you who can make it, we're going to get those started real soon. So thank you all for coming. I went a minute over, which I hate doing. And we will see you all next month. Thanks, everyone.